The fluorescent lights of Blackwood International's 40th floor hummed their familiar tune as I shuffled another stack of shipping manifests across my desk. 6 months. 6 months of living a carefully constructed lie, of baggy blazers and strategic positioning behind furniture, of declining lunch invitations and avoiding the executive suite like my life depended on it. Because it did. My hand instinctively moved to my stomach, hidden beneath the oversized cardigan I'd taken to wearing religiously. The baby kicked, a gentle reminder of the secret I carried. Literally. A secret that began 9 months ago at the company gala, in a moment of weakness, champagne, and the most dangerously attractive man I'd ever met. Adrian Blackwood, CEO, import mogul, and completely off limits. I hadn't known then what I knew now, that the man who'd kissed me breathless in a darkened hallway, who'd taken me to his penthouse with hands both gentle and demanding, who'd whispered my name like a prayer, that man was more than just my boss. He was the invisible hand that controlled half the city's underground operations, a fact I'd stumbled upon 3 months ago when filing the wrong document in the wrong cabinet. The Blackwood family didn't just import luxury goods, they imported everything, including things that never saw the light of customs inspections. Ava, and my coworker Jennifer's voice made me jump. You okay? You've been staring at that same page for 10 minutes. I forced a smile, pulling my cardigan tighter. Just tired, didn't sleep well. It wasn't entirely a lie. Sleep had become a luxury I couldn't afford. Not when every night brought dreams of that gala, of Adrian's storm-gray eyes watching me across the ballroom, of the way he'd smiled when I'd nervously accepted his invitation to dance. One dance had turned into two into conversation on the balcony, conversation into something I'd promised myself I wouldn't think about anymore. My desk phone rang, the internal line blinking red. Executive suite. My heart hammered against my ribs as I answered. Ms. Chen, Mr. Blackwood requires your presence in his office. Immediately. Margaret's crisp British accent allowed no room for argument. This was it. This was the moment I'd been dreading for months. Adrian had noticed. Someone had told him. My carefully constructed world was about to crumble. I'll be right up, I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. Jennifer gave me a sympathetic look. Good luck. I heard he's been in a mood all week since the Rossi deal went sideways. The Rossi family, another name I'd learned from those misfiled documents. Adrian's primary competition. Enemies in a war that played out in boardrooms and back alleys alike. I gathered my tablet, using it as a shield across my midsection as I made my way to the elevator. Each floor that passed felt like a countdown to disaster. Would he fire me on the spot? Would he demand to know why I'd hidden this from him? Would he even remember that night? Or had I been just another conquest for a man who could have anyone? The executive floor was quieter, all dark wood and expensive art. Margaret looked up from her desk, her expression unreadable. Go straight in. He's expecting you. My hand trembled as I reached for the door handle. This was it. The moment everything changed. Adrian's office was exactly as I remembered from the few times I'd been summoned here. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than my annual salary, and Adrian himself behind a massive desk, his attention focused on the laptop before him. He looked different than he had at the gala, harder. The man who'd laughed at my jokes and traced patterns on my bare skin with gentle fingers was gone, replaced by someone who radiated danger like other men radiated cologne. Sit, he said without looking up. I perched on the edge of the leather chair across from him, keeping my tablet positioned carefully, my cardigan buttoned to my throat despite the warmth of his office. The Singapore shipment, he began, finally raising his eyes to meet mine. Those same gray eyes that had seen every inch of me, that had watched me fall apart in his arms. There's a discrepancy in the documentation. Customs is asking questions. This was about work. Just work. Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt dizzy. I can pull the original manifests, I offered quickly. Cross-reference with the warehouse receipts. If there's a discrepancy, I'll find it. That's what you're good at, isn't it? Something in his tone made me look up sharply, finding things, noticing details others miss. My pulse quickened. Was this about the shipment, or something else entirely? I try to be thorough, Mr. Blackwood. Adrian. The correction was sharp. You called me Adrian once, I remember. The air in the office shifted, charged with memories neither of us acknowledged. I clutched my tablet tighter, as if it could protect me from the intensity of his gaze. That was inappropriate, I said carefully. It won't happen again. No, I don't suppose it will. He stood, moving around his desk with the predatory grace I remembered too well. You've been avoiding me, Ava. Cancelled meetings, declined invitations to present at executive briefings. Margaret tells me you've requested to work from home twice a week. Why? Because being near you makes it impossible to breathe. Because every time I see you, I remember how it felt to be wanted by you. Because our child kicks every time I hear your voice and I'm terrified you'll somehow know. I've been dealing with some health issues, I said instead. Nothing serious, just easier to work from home sometimes. Health issues. He moved closer, and I resisted the urge to stand, to run. That's why you've been wearing clothes that look like you borrowed them from someone twice your size? That's why you turn sideways to walk through doorways now? That's why you haven't looked me in the eye for 3 months? He noticed. Of course he noticed. Adrian Blackwood hadn't built an empire, legal and otherwise, by missing details. I don't know what you mean, I lied, hating how weak it sounded. Stand up. My heart stopped. Excuse me? Stand up, Ava. That's not a request. The command in his voice left no room for argument. Slowly, knowing I was about to lose everything, I stood. The tablet fell from my nerveless fingers, clattering to the expensive hardwood floor. Turn around. This was it. The moment I dreaded and somehow impossibly hoped for in equal measure. I turned and heard his sharp intake of breath. Even with the oversized cardigan, the truth was undeniable from this angle. 6 months pregnant was impossible to hide completely, no matter how creative I got with clothing. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I waited for the accusations, the anger, the dismissal. Instead, he said quietly, When? I closed my eyes. The gala, 9 months ago. More silence. Then, and you didn't think to tell me? I didn't think you'd want to know. The words came out sharper than intended. You're Adrian Blackwood. You have your choice of anyone in this city. I'm just what? His hand on my shoulder spun me back to face him, and the intensity in his eyes stole my breath. Just the woman who's been living in my head for 9 months? Just the one person I haven't been able to stop thinking about? Just the mother of my child? The possessiveness in that last word sent shivers down my spine. Your child? I repeated, finding my voice. You think you can just claim, it's mine. Not a question. A statement of absolute certainty. The dates match. And you wouldn't have hidden this so desperately if there was any doubt. He was right, and we both knew it. I didn't want to trap you, I admitted, the truth finally spilling out. I didn't want you to think I'd planned this, that I was trying to what? Secure your position? Get money from me? His laugh was bitter. Ava, you've been working yourself to exhaustion while pregnant to avoid me. That's the opposite of what someone trying to trap me would do. His hand moved, hovering near my stomach, but not quite touching, asking permission I wasn't ready to give. Why didn't you tell me? The question was softer now, almost hurt. Because you're dangerous. The words escaped before I could stop them. Not just because of who you are, what you are, but because of how you make me feel. Because one night with you changed everything. And I knew if you found out about this baby, you'd change everything again. You're right about that. His hand finally made contact, pressing gently against the swell of my stomach through the cardigan. The baby chose that moment to kick, hard enough that Adrian felt it. His expression transformed, something fierce and protective replacing the careful control he usually maintained. This changes everything. Adrian, you're coming with me. Now. He was already moving, pulling out his phone, his free hand still on my stomach as if he couldn't bear to break contact. Dante, bring the car around. Yes, now. And call Caruso. I need the penthouse secured within the hour. Wait, what? No, I'm not going anywhere with you. I tried to step back, but his hand on my waist held me gently but firmly in place. The Rossi family knows about you. His words froze me in place. They found out about my personal assistant 3 days ago, started digging. I've had security on you since then, but it's not enough. Not anymore. Not with my child involved. The room spun. Security? You've been having me followed? Protected, he corrected. And clearly I was right to do so, given that you're carrying my heir, and didn't bother to mention it. Your heir? Adrian, this is a baby, not some business acquisition. No, it's my child, my responsibility, my family. Each word was weighted with meaning I was only beginning to understand. And the Rossi family would love nothing more than to use you both against me. So yes, Ava, you're coming with me. We can argue about the rest later. I have a life, a job. I can't just disappear. You work for me. Consider yourself on indefinite paid leave. He was already guiding me toward the door, his body positioned between me and any potential threat even here, in his own office. Everything else we'll figure out. My brother. That made him pause. Your brother? Marcus. He's a detective. He'll notice if I just vanish. Something dangerous flashed across Adrian's face. Then we'll have to be very careful what we tell Detective Chen, won't we? Because if he starts digging into why you need protection, he's going to find things that will force him to make very difficult choices. The implication was clear. My brother's career, his principles, his entire life, everything would be at risk if he learned the truth about Adrian's business. This is insane, I whispered. This is survival. Adrian's hand cupped my face, gentle despite the steel in his voice. 9 months ago, we made something neither of us planned. But now that I know, now that our child exists, there is nothing I won't do to keep you both safe. Even if that means keeping you locked in a fortress until this threat is neutralized. You can't just kidnap me. It's not kidnapping when you're protecting what's yours. His thumb traced my cheekbone, and damn him, my body still responded to his touch. And whether you like it or not, Ava, you're mine. You've been mine since that night. I just didn't know how much until 30 seconds ago. The baby kicked again, as if agreeing with him. Traitor. What about my things? My apartment? Already being handled. Anything you need, you'll have. Anything you want, you'll get. His expression softened slightly. I know this isn't how you wanted this to happen. But the Rossi family doesn't negotiate, doesn't compromise, and doesn't leave loose ends. You became a loose end the moment they learned you exist. Fear finally cut through my indignation. Are we really in that much danger? Yes. The single word held no comfort, no false reassurance. But I've survived this long by being smarter, more ruthless, and better prepared than everyone else. No one touches what's mine, Ava. No one. The possessiveness should have frightened me. Instead, It did something far more dangerous. It made me feel safe. Okay, I heard myself say. Okay, but we need rules, boundaries. Whatever you need. The relief in his voice was palpable. And you explain everything. The Rossi family, the danger, all of it. No more secrets. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. No more secrets. As he led me out of his office, his hand protective at the small of my back, I wondered which of us had just lied. Adrian's penthouse made his office look modest by comparison. 50 floors above the city, with views that stretched to the horizon and security measures I couldn't even begin to identify. It was less a home and more a fortress disguised as luxury. This way, he guided me through the marble foyer, past artwork that belonged in museums, toward a hallway lined with closed doors. You'll have your own room, your own space, whatever makes you comfortable. My own room? I turned to face him, pulling away from his touch for the first time since we'd left his office. You said I was yours. You practically dragged me here talking about protection and heirs. Now you want me in a separate room? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. What I want, Ava, and what's appropriate, are two very different things. You're pregnant, vulnerable, and I've essentially taken you prisoner. The last thing you need is me pushing for more. And if I want more... The words escaped before I could stop them. Months of denial and longing and pregnancy hormones combining into a moment of reckless honesty. Adrian went very still. Don't say things like that unless you mean them. I mean them. I stepped closer, emboldened by something I couldn't name. 9 months ago, we had one night. One perfect night. Then you went back to being the untouchable CEO, and I went back to being just another employee. But this baby... I took his hand, pressing it firmly against my stomach. This baby was made that night, and I've spent 6 months trying to pretend it wasn't, trying to pretend you weren't the father, trying to pretend I didn't want... His mouth was on mine before I could finish, stealing the words and my breath in equal measure. This kiss was different from those 9 months ago, less gentle, more desperate, seasoned with months of denial and want. I tried to forget you, he admitted against my lips. Tried to convince myself it was just one night. But every morning I came to this office hoping you'd be in a meeting I attended. Every evening I invented reasons to walk past your desk. I noticed everything, Ava. Every change in your routine, every new piece of oversized clothing, every time you touched your stomach when you thought no one was watching. Why didn't you say something? Because I thought you were avoiding me because you regretted it, because I'd crossed a line I had no business crossing with someone who worked for me. His forehead rested against mine. I never imagined you were hiding my child. The baby kicked again, more insistently this time, and Adrian's expression transformed. Does it hurt? No, it just feels like someone's doing gymnastics in there. I guided his hand to where the movement was strongest. Feel that? His breath caught as our child made their presence known, pushing against their father's palm through my skin. That's our baby. That's our baby, I confirmed softly. Boy or girl, I don't know. I haven't found out. I hesitated. I wasn't sure if I was doing this alone, so I thought maybe it would be easier not to know, not to build up expectations. Pain flashed across his face. You thought you'd be doing this alone, because of me, because I never gave you any reason to think I'd want this. Adrian, we had one night, one incredible, perfect night, but that doesn't make us a couple. It doesn't mean you owe me anything. It means I owe you everything. His hand cupped my face with surprising gentleness. You're carrying my child, Ava. My heir. My family. There's nothing I wouldn't give you. Nothing I wouldn't do to keep you safe. Even give up your empire? The question escaped before I could think better of it. He stilled. What do you mean? I've seen the files, Adrian. The ones that shouldn't be in the employee archive. I know what you really do, what Blackwood International really is. I met his eyes steadily. I know about the Rossi family because I know you're in the same business. So yes, would you give it up? For this baby? For a legitimate life? The silence that followed felt endless. That's not how this works, he finally said, his voice carefully controlled. You don't just walk away from this life. The moment you're in forever. Then what kind of life are you offering our child? A father who might not come home one day? A childhood spent behind security and bulletproof glass? A legacy built on blood and fear? A legacy built on power and protection? His voice hardened. Do you think the legitimate business world is any cleaner? At least in my world, the rules are clear. You know who your enemies are. Like the Rossi family? Exactly like the Rossi family. He pulled away, moving to the massive windows overlooking the city. They've been trying to edge into my territory for years. Import routes, distribution networks, political connections. They want it all, and they're willing to burn everything to get it. Why do they care about me? Because they found out you spent time with me. Because in their world, that makes you either a weakness to exploit or a source of information to extract. He turned back to face me, and the cold fury in his eyes made me shiver. They don't know about the baby yet, but when they find out, you become the ultimate leverage, the one thing that could make me negotiate. Would you? Negotiate for me? I'd burn the city down first. Said with such absolute conviction that I believed him. But it won't come to that. I've already contacted my lawyers, my security team, my family. By tomorrow morning, you'll be in a legal gray area that makes you essentially untouchable. Legal gray area? A slight smile crossed his lips. Marriage, Ava. A legal binding marriage that gives you access to everything I have, every protection I can provide, and makes any move against you an act of war against the entire Blackwood family. My breath caught. You're insane. I'm practical. He crossed back to me, taking my hands in his. We don't have to make it real. It can be paperwork, protection, nothing more. But on paper, you'll be Ava Blackwood, and that name carries weight in every circle that matters. And what about what I want? The question came out smaller than I intended. What if I don't want to be Mrs. Blackwood in name only? What if I don't want a marriage that's just a business transaction? His grip on my hands tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying that 9 months ago, I didn't fall into bed with Adrian Blackwood, the crime boss. I fell into bed with the man who made me laugh, who listened when I talked about my dreams, who looked at me like I was the only person in the room. I met his eyes. That's the man I want. Not the fortress. Not the power. Not the protection. Just him. Ava. And if that man doesn't exist anymore, if he was just an illusion for one night, then tell me now. Because I won't raise our child in a house full of half-truths and business arrangements. I'd rather face the Rossi family alone than teach our baby that love is just another transaction. The silence stretched between us, heavy with truths neither of us wanted to speak. That man is still here, Adrian finally said, his voice rough. But he comes with complications you can't begin to imagine. He comes with enemies and blood on his hands and choices that would horrify you. He comes with a past that can't be erased and a future that might end violently. Then let me decide if that's a future I want to share. I placed his hand back on my stomach. Let me decide if I can love the man, despite the monster everyone tells me he is. And if you decide you can't, then we figure out a way to co-parent that keeps everyone safe. But at least we'll have tried to be honest with each other. I took a deep breath. So tell me the truth, Adrian. All of it. Who are the Rossi family? What do they want? And what are you willing to sacrifice to keep us safe? He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded toward the leather sofa facing those impossible windows. Sit. This is going to take a while. I settled into the butter-soft leather, grateful to be off my feet. Adrian poured himself whiskey from a crystal decanter but didn't drink, just held the glass like a talisman. The Rossi family controls the southern ports, he began. Drugs primarily, but they've been diversifying. Weapons, people, anything that turns a profit. We've had a territorial agreement for years. They stay south, I stay north. We don't interfere with each other's operations. But 2 months ago, their patriarch died. Giovanni Rossi was old school, a man of his word. His son Marco is neither. Adrian's jaw tightened. Marco wants expansion. He wants my import licenses, my shipping routes, my political connections. He wants to be the only game in town. So this is about business. Everything is about business until it becomes personal. He finally took a drink. 3 weeks ago, Marco made a move on one of my warehouses. Tried to hijack a shipment. Sent a message that he doesn't consider our old agreements valid anymore. What did you do? What I had to. The words were cold, final. I reminded him that there are lines you don't cross. But that made him angry, and angry men make mistakes. Like investigating everyone connected to me, looking for weaknesses. And he found me. He found the woman I couldn't stop watching. The one person my security team had specific orders to monitor and protect, even though I told myself it was just because you had access to sensitive company information. Adrian's smile was self-deprecating. Marco's smart enough to know that kind of attention means something. So he'll come after me to get to you. He'll try. The certainty in Adrian's voice sent chills down my spine. But he doesn't know about the baby yet. We have maybe a week before his intelligence network catches up, which means we have a week to make you untouchable. Through marriage, legal protections, and establishing you firmly within the Blackwood family structure. He set down his glass and moved to sit beside me. I know it sounds clinical, but once you're legally my wife, you're under the protection of not just me, but my brothers, my cousins, everyone who carries the Blackwood name. Marco would need an army to get to you then. You have brothers? 2. Dante and Lucian. They'll want to meet you. His hand found mine. They'll want to know the woman crazy enough to carry a Blackwood heir. Tell me about them. And so he did. As the sun set over the city and the lights began to twinkle like fallen stars, Adrian told me about his family. About Dante, his younger brother who handled security and had a gift for predicting enemy moves. About Lucian, the youngest, who managed their legitimate business interests and had been pushing for years for the family to go clean. About his mother, who died when he was 15, leaving him to raise his brothers while building an empire. About his father, who taught him that in their world, you protected what was yours no matter the cost. He sounds terrifying, I admitted when he finished. He was. Adrian's voice held unexpected warmth. But he loved us fiercely. Everything he did, every choice he made, it was to keep us safe and together. I understand that now, in a way I couldn't when I was younger. Is that what you're doing? Keeping us safe and together? I'm trying to. He turned to face me fully. But I need you to understand something, Ava. If you stay here, if you marry me, if you tie yourself to the Blackwood name, there's no going back. You can't wake up in 6 months and decide you want a normal life. This becomes your life. The security, the secrets, the constant awareness that we have enemies. All of it. And our baby? Our baby grows up protected, provided for, and part of a family that would die before letting harm come to them. He placed both hands on my stomach now, cradling the swell of our child. I can't promise normal, but I can promise safety, loyalty, and everything I have. What about love? The question hung between us, impossible and essential. I don't know, he admitted with brutal honesty. I know I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 9 months. I know seeing you pregnant with my child makes me want to lock every door and never let you out of my sight. I know the thought of Marco Rossi even knowing your name makes me want to burn his entire organization to the ground. That's not love, Adrian. That's possession. Maybe in my world they're the same thing. He met my eyes. But if you want more than that, if you want the romance and the poetry and the soft declarations, I'll try. I'll try to be the man you fell into bed with 9 months ago, the one who wasn't thinking about empires and enemies. I just can't promise I'll succeed. It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't even a promise of happiness. But it was honest. And right now, that meant more than pretty lies. Okay, I said softly. Okay? Okay, I'll marry you. I'll become Ava Blackwood. I'll accept your protection and your family and your complicated, dangerous world. I place my hands over his. But you have to promise me something in return. Anything. Promise me you'll try. Not just to protect us, but to be present. To be a father, not just a provider. To let this baby know who you really are, not just the empire you've built. I promise. He lifted my hand to his lips. And one more thing. What? Promise me you'll tell me immediately if you need anything, want anything, or if something feels wrong. Your health, the baby's health, that comes before everything else. Before business, before the Rossi situation, before my pride. The genuine concern in his voice made my throat tight. I promise. Good. He pulled out his phone. Now let's get you settled. You need rest, food, and probably every pregnancy pillow in existence. Adrian, I don't need... You need everything, he interrupted firmly. And you're going to get it, starting with actual comfortable clothes, continuing with whatever bizarre food combinations pregnant women crave, and ending with me sleeping on the floor outside your door until I'm absolutely certain you're safe. The floor? You have about 6 spare bedrooms in this place. The floor outside your door, he repeated. I'm not letting you out of my sight until the wedding, and even then, I'm keeping you close. I should have argued, should have insisted on boundaries and personal space. But the truth was, I was exhausted from months of hiding, terrified of the threats I didn't fully understand, and desperately in need of someone to lean on. Okay, I said again. His smile was small, but genuine. You're awfully agreeable all of a sudden. I'm tired. I leaned against his shoulder, letting myself accept the comfort he offered. And scared, and 6 months pregnant with your baby. I think I'm allowed to be agreeable. His arm came around me, solid and warm. You're allowed to be anything you want, but right now you're going to be fed and rested. Doctor first thing tomorrow, wedding planner after that, and security briefing once I'm sure you're both healthy. You really have this all planned out. I've had 9 months to imagine what I'd do if I ever got a second chance with you. His lips brushed my temple. I just never imagined it would be like this. Regrets? Not a single one. His hand moved to cradle my stomach again, and our baby kicked as if in response. This is perfect. Terrifying and complicated and dangerous, but perfect. And sitting there in his fortress above the city, his arms around me and our child moving between us, I let myself believe him. The wedding happened 72 hours later in Adrian's private library, with only his brothers, a judge who owed the Blackwood family considerable favors, and enough security personnel to invade a small country. I wore a simple cream dress that actually accommodated my growing belly, a minor miracle given the time constraints. and Adrian wore his customary black suit, though he'd added a silver tie that matched my shoes. "You look beautiful," he murmured as I took my place beside him, genuine warmth in his voice. I look pregnant and terrified. Still beautiful. His hand found mine, steady and sure. "Ready?" "No, but let's do this anyway." The ceremony was brief, clinical, more contract than romance. We exchanged traditional vows because the judge insisted, slipped matching platinum bands on each other's fingers, and sealed the deal with a kiss that was appropriate for the audience, but hinted at the heat simmering beneath. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," Judge Morrison intoned with the gravitas of someone who knew exactly what kind of union he was sanctioning. "May your marriage be prosperous." "Prosperous," Dante muttered from his position by the door, hand never far from the weapon I now knew he always carried. "That's one way to put it." "Shut up, Dante," Adrian said without heat, then surprised me by sweeping me into a more thorough kiss than strictly necessary. "Hello, Mrs. Blackwood." "Hello, Mr. Blackwood." The name felt foreign on my tongue, like wearing someone else's skin. "Congratulations, brother." Lucian stepped forward, younger than Adrian, but with the same sharp gray eyes. "And welcome to the family, Ava. I'd say you're getting the better end of this deal, but given current circumstances, I'm not sure that's true." "Lucian handles our legitimate operations," Adrian explained, his arm protective around my waist. "Shipping contracts, import licenses, everything legal and above board. He's also the reason we're not in jail." "Give me too much credit," Lucian said with a slight smile, "though I am working on a rather interesting proposal that might interest both of you." "Later," Adrian cut him off. "Right now my wife needs food and rest." "My wife?" The word sent an unexpected thrill through me. The reception, if it could be called that, consisted of an elaborate meal served in Adrian's dining room. Mine now, I supposed, with his brothers providing surprisingly entertaining company. Dante regaled me with stories of Adrian's misspent youth, carefully edited to exclude anything too incriminating, while Lucian discussed plans for legitimizing more of the family business. "It's not impossible," Lucian insisted, refilling my water glass with attentive care. "We have the infrastructure, the connections, the capital. We could transition everything to legal operations within 2 years if Adrian would commit to it." "We've had this conversation," Adrian said, his hand resting possessively on my thigh beneath the table. "It's not that simple." "It is if you want it to be." Lucian's gaze flicked to me, then to where Adrian's other hand occasionally drifted to my stomach. "And now you have more reason than ever to want it." The tension that followed could have been cut with a knife. "He has a point," I ventured quietly. "Not that I'm trying to dictate your choices, but our baby is going to ask questions eventually. About what you do, why we have so much security, why certain people can never know certain things." "Our baby will understand that family comes first," Adrian said firmly. "That everything I do to protect them. Or our baby will grow up thinking that's what love looks like. Protection without transparency. Safety without trust." I met his eyes steadily. "I'm not judging you, Adrian, but I am saying that Lucian might be right. If there's a path to something more legitimate, something that doesn't require our child to live in a fortress." "We'll discuss it," Adrian said, in a tone that suggested the discussion was over for now. "Later, when we're not all exhausted and overfed." Dante laughed. "She's been your wife for 3 hours and she's already winning arguments. I like her." "I like her too," Adrian said, pulling me closer. "Which is why I'm ending this celebration now so she can rest. Out, both of you." His brothers left with good-natured protests, but not before Dante pressed a card into my hand. "My direct line. If you ever need anything, and my idiot brother is too stubborn to provide it, you call me. She won't need to, Adrian growled. Humor me. Dante winked at me. Welcome to the family, Ava. You're braver than I thought. Once they'd gone, the penthouse felt impossibly large and quiet. Adrian guided me to the master bedroom, our bedroom now. He'd insisted, and proceeded to fuss over me like I might shatter. Stop, I finally said, catching his hands as he attempted to arrange the 5th pregnancy pillow. I'm pregnant, not made of glass. You're carrying my child, and you've been through an incredibly stressful few days. Let me take care of you. I will, if you actually get in the bed with me instead of treating me like a patient. He stilled. You want me to. We're married now, Adrian. Legally, binding, the whole deal. I think we can share a bed. I patted the space beside me. Unless you'd rather take the floor like you've been doing. I was trying to give you space, let you adjust. I've been adjusting for 6 months. I'm done adjusting. I'm tired, I'm pregnant, and I want my husband to hold me. Is that allowed? His answer was to finally climb into bed beside me, pulling me against his chest with careful tenderness. Is this okay? Am I pressing on anything? It's perfect. I nestled closer, letting myself relax for the first time in days. Adrian? Thank you for all of this, for protecting us, for the wedding, for your brothers, for trying. You don't need to thank me for protecting what's mine. His hand found my stomach, our ritual now. This is everything, Ava. You're everything. Even though we barely know each other, even though this whole thing is insane, especially because of that. He pressed a kiss to my hair. I've been in this world long enough to know that nothing good comes easy. The fact that finding you again was this complicated, this dangerous, this impossible. It means something. It means you're worth fighting for. You're a romantic underneath all that crime boss exterior. Don't tell anyone. It would ruin my reputation. I laughed, the sound surprising us both. Your secret's safe with me. We lay in comfortable silence, his hand moving in slow circles on my stomach until the baby kicked. Still so weird, he murmured. There's a whole person in there. Our person. Our person who's going to need a name eventually. Do you have preferences? I've been too scared to think about it. Choosing a name felt too real, too permanent. Like I was admitting this was actually happening. It's happening. His voice was low, certain. And whatever name you choose, I'll love it. Boy or girl, as long as they're healthy. Boy, I heard myself say. I think it's a boy, just a feeling. Then we'll have a son. The wonder in his voice made my throat tight. A son to raise, to teach, to... His phone buzzed, killing the moment. Adrian's expression hardened as he read the message. What is it? Marco Rossi requested a meeting. Tomorrow night, neutral territory. He wants to discuss our mutual interests. Ice flooded my veins. He knows. He suspects. Adrian pulled me closer. But suspecting and knowing are different things. And now that you're legally my wife, any move he makes against you is an act of war. Should you go to this meeting? I have to. But you'll stay here with Dante and enough security to hold off a small army. He tilted my face up to meet his eyes. I need you to promise me something. What? If anything goes wrong tomorrow night, if something happens to me, you listen to Dante. Everything I have, everything I've built. It's yours and our son's. The lawyers have already drawn up the papers. You'll be protected, provided for, even if... I pressed my fingers to his lips. Don't talk like that. I have to. This is my world, Ava. You need to understand that every time I walk out that door, there's a chance I don't walk back in. Then maybe Lucian is right. Maybe it's time to find a different world. I took his hand, pressing it firmly against where our son moved restlessly. Because this little person is going to need his father, and I've just discovered I need my husband. So you don't get to talk about contingency plans and what happens if something goes wrong. You're going to that meeting, you're going to handle Marco Rossi, and you're coming home to us. Understand? A slow smile crossed his face. Yes, ma'am. Good. I settled back against his chest. Now tell me more about this neutral territory. How neutral are we talking? And so he did, explaining the complicated web of alliances and territories that governed his world, until my questions grew slower and sleep pulled me under. The last thing I remembered was his voice, low and sure. I promise, Ava, I'll come home to you. I woke to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and Adrian already dressed, all sharp edges and controlled danger in black on black. You're leaving? I struggled to sit up, pregnancy making the movement awkward. Not for several hours. He moved to help me, his touch gentle. But I wanted to brief you before Dante arrives. He'll stay with you until I return. I don't need a babysitter. You need protection. There's a difference. He sat on the edge of the bed, taking my hands. I've arranged for Dr. Santos to come here this afternoon. Full checkup, everything to make sure you and the baby are healthy. Dante will be in the living room the entire time. Adrian, let me do this. His grip tightened. Let me know you're safe while I'm handling Marco, please. The vulnerability in that last word undid me. Okay, but you call me the second it's over. The second, he promised. Now there's breakfast in the kitchen whenever you're ready, and Margaret is coordinating with decorators for the nursery. She'll want your input on everything. Nursery? The word caught me off guard. Already? We have 3 months until this baby arrives. That's not much time to prepare. His hand moved to my stomach, our morning ritual. Besides, I want everything perfect for him. Him? You said you think it's a boy. I'm choosing to believe you. He leaned down, pressing a kiss to my forehead, then lower, to where our son grew. Be good for your mother today. No gymnastics during the doctor's visit. As if in response, the baby kicked, making us both smile. Traitor, I accused. Already siding with your father. Smart kid. Adrian stood, reluctance evident in every line of his body. I should go. The sooner I handle this, the sooner I'm back. Be careful. Always. He moved to the door, then paused. Ava, last night, what you said about needing your husband. Did you mean it? I met his eyes steadily. Every word. His smile could have lit the city. Good, because I've discovered I need my wife too. More than I thought possible. Then he was gone, leaving me in a fortress of luxury and fear, waiting for a man I barely knew, but somehow couldn't imagine living without. The day passed in a surreal haze of normalcy. Dr. Santos pronounced both me and the baby healthy, though he prescribed additional rest and prenatal vitamins with the stern demeanor of someone used to being obeyed. Margaret appeared with fabric samples and paint chips, efficiently narrowing down nursery options based on my tentative preferences. Dante proved surprisingly good company, regaling me with more stories of Adrian's youth while maintaining constant vigilance. He's different with you, Dante observed as evening approached. Softer, like the kid I grew up with before our father's death hardened him. I can't imagine Adrian soft. That's because you've only known him as the boss, the empire builder, the man everyone fears. Dante's expression grew thoughtful. But that night at the gala, when he came home at dawn looking like he'd found something he hadn't known he was searching for, that was the real Adrian, the one who feels too much and hides it too well. What happened to him? After your father died? He became the man he thought we needed. Ruthless, controlled, feared. He was 21 and suddenly responsible for 2 younger brothers and a criminal empire. He didn't have time to grieve or doubt or be young. Dante's jaw tightened. He sacrificed everything to keep us safe. So forgive me for being glad he's finally found something for himself, someone who makes him remember there's more to life than survival. I didn't know what to say to that, so I simply nodded. He'll be home soon, Dante assured me, checking his phone. The meeting should be wrapping up now. Marco got his warning. Adrian made his position clear. By tomorrow, every organization in the city will know you're untouchable. And if Marco doesn't care about warnings? Then Adrian will remind him why you don't cross the Blackwood family, said with absolute certainty. My phone rang, Adrian's number. I answered before the second ring. It's done, he said without preamble. Marco understands the situation. You're safe. Relief flooded through me. You're coming home? Already on my way. 20 minutes. I'll be waiting. I was, standing by those impossible windows, watching the sun set over the city, when Adrian walked through the door exactly 19 minutes later. He looked tired but unharmed, and that was all that mattered. Hey, I said softly. Hey yourself. He crossed to me, pulling me into his arms like he'd been gone days instead of hours. Miss me? Terribly. Good. He pulled back just enough to kiss me properly, thoroughly, until my knees went weak and his brothers, who'd apparently followed him in, groaned in mock disgust. We're leaving, Lucian announced, before this gets more domestic than I can handle. Good plan. Adrian agreed without looking away from me. See you tomorrow. When we were finally alone, he guided me to the couch, pulling me into his lap with careful tenderness. How was your day? Productive. We have a nursery color scheme now. Soft gray with navy accents. Perfect. His hand found my stomach. And the doctor? Said we're both healthy, though he wants me to reduce stress, which seems impossible given current circumstances. We'll work on it. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Starting with this, Marco agreed to back off, completely. You're off limits. The baby's off limits. Even investigating me is off limits where you're concerned. Just like that? Just like that. His smile was predatory. I may have offered him something he wanted more than revenge. What did you give him? Territory. Import routes in the southern corridor that I've been holding more for strategic advantage than profit. He gets expansion, I get your safety. Fair trade. Adrian, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. He turned me to face him fully. You asked me what I was willing to sacrifice. The answer is anything. Everything. My pride, my territory, my empire. Whatever it takes to keep you and our son safe. That's not sustainable. You can't keep giving up pieces of your world every time someone threatens us. Which is why Lucian's proposal is starting to sound more appealing. He helped me settle more comfortably against him. He's been working on a transition plan. Legitimate shipping, proper licenses, transparent operations. It would take time and considerable effort, but it's possible. You're serious? I'm considering it, because you're right. This isn't the world I want our son to inherit. And if there's a way to build something better, something legal, I should at least try. His hand moved in slow circles on my stomach. For him, for you, for the family we're building. When did you become so reasonable? When I realized I had more to lose than just my life. He kissed me slowly. You've changed everything, Ava. The priorities, the risks, what matters. I'm not sure I'm entirely comfortable with it yet. Get comfortable, I advised. Because I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. I sealed it with a kiss that quickly became more, until we were both breathing hard and the baby was protesting the compression. Bed, Adrian decided, before I forget you're 6 months pregnant and supposed to be reducing stress. I can think of some very relaxing activities that happen in beds. His laugh was low and dangerous. You're going to kill me, Mrs. Blackwood. Eventually, I agreed. But not tonight. Tonight you're going to hold me and tell me more about this transition plan. Because if we're doing this, building a legitimate life, raising a son, actually trying to make this marriage work, I want to know everything. Everything? Everything, I confirmed. No more secrets. No more half-truths. We figure this out together, or not at all. He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. Together then. Starting now. And as he carried me to bed and began explaining Lucian's careful plans for legitimizing the Blackwood Empire, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, we could build something lasting from the chaos. Our son kicked his approval, and Adrian's expression transformed into something I was beginning to recognize as hope. The first real crisis came 2 weeks later, in the form of my brother standing in the penthouse lobby demanding to see me. He's been here for an hour, Dante informed me, tension evident in every line of his body. Won't leave, won't accept that you're fine, insists on seeing you personally. I'd known this was coming. Known it since the moment Adrian had swept me away to his fortress, and I'd started ignoring Marcus's increasingly frantic calls and texts. My brother was a detective, methodical and determined. He wouldn't simply accept radio silence. I have to talk to him, I said, already moving toward the elevator. If I don't, he'll just dig deeper. And that's the last thing any of us needs. Adrian's in a meeting with the lawyers. Dante blocked my path. He'll want to be here for this conversation. Which is exactly why I need to handle it alone. Marcus will take one look at Adrian and know something's wrong. He's trained to read people, to spot deception. I met Dante's eyes steadily. I can do this. I just need you to trust me. It's not about trust. It's about protocol. Adrian specifically said, Adrian isn't the only one who gets to make decisions about my life. The words came out sharper than intended. Marcus is my brother. He deserves an explanation, and I'm the only one who can give him one that doesn't end with him investigating the entire Blackwood organization. Dante studied me for a long moment, then sighed. Fine, but I'm standing right there. And if anything feels off, if he pushes too hard or asks the wrong questions, I'm ending the conversation. Agreed. The lobby felt sterile compared to the warmth of the penthouse, all marble and cold lighting. Marcus looked exhausted, his detective's shield clipped to his belt, worry etched into every line of his face. Ava. He stood the moment he saw me, his gaze immediately going to my very obvious pregnancy. Jesus Christ, how long have you been? Why didn't you tell me? It's complicated, I began, then stopped as he closed the distance between us. Complicated? You disappear for 2 weeks, ignore my calls, and now I find you pregnant and living in a penthouse with security that makes the damn Pentagon look casual. What the hell is going on? I got married. Simple words, enormous implications. Marcus stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Married? You got married? To who? When? Why am I finding out like this? His name is Adrian Blackwood. He's the CEO of Blackwood International. I know who he is. Marcus's cop face slammed into place, all professional assessment. What I don't know is how my sister ended up married to one of the most powerful men in the city without telling me. It happened fast. We'd been dating quietly, and when I got pregnant, we decided to make it official before the baby came. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I just needed time to adjust to everything. Dating quietly. Marcus's eyes narrowed. For how long? Does it matter? I'm married now, I'm happy, and I'm safe. Isn't that what you wanted? What I wanted was the truth. He moved closer, and I saw Dante tense from his position by the elevator. Ava, I've been a detective for 8 years. I know when someone's lying to me. Whatever story you've been told to tell me, whatever they've convinced you is necessary. I need you to know that I can help. If you're in trouble, if someone's forcing you, no one's forcing me to do anything. I took his hand, pressing it to my stomach where his nephew moved restlessly. I'm married to Adrian because I choose to be, because I'm carrying his child, and I want us to be a family. That's the truth, Marcus. I promise. Some of the tension left his shoulders as the baby kicked against his palm. You're really pregnant, really married, really happy. Yes, to all of it. Not entirely a lie. The happiness was complicated, but it was real. Then why the fortress? Why security that includes former Special Forces operatives? He gestured to Dante. Why all the secrecy? Because Adrian's successful, which means he has enemies, business rivals who might try to use me to get to him. Still technically true, just missing the criminal empire context. The security is excessive, I'll admit, but it makes him feel better. And given that I'm carrying his heir, I can't exactly blame him for being overprotective. Marcus studied me for a long moment, and I held my breath, wondering if he'd accept the explanation or push deeper. I don't like this, he finally said. Any of it. But I can see you're not going to give me more than you already have. He pulled me into a careful hug. Just promise me you'll call if you need anything at all. I don't care how powerful your husband is or how much security you have. You're my sister first. I promise. I hugged him back, guilt eating at me. And Marcus? Thank you for caring enough to track me down. It means everything. That's what family does. He pulled back, his expression serious. But I meant what I said. Anything feels wrong, you call me. Day or night, I'll be there. After he left, I sagged against Dante, exhaustion crashing over me. That was horrible. You did well. Sold the story convincingly. Dante guided me back to the elevator. But he's going to keep digging. Cops can't help themselves. I know. Which is why we need to make sure there's nothing for him to find that connects Adrian to anything illegal. I looked up at him. Lucian's transition plan. How fast can we make it happen? You'd have to ask Lucian. But these things take time, Ava. You can't just shut down a criminal empire overnight. Then we start now, today. The decision crystallized with absolute clarity. Because I just lied to my brother's face, and I'm going to keep lying to him until Adrian's business is legitimate. I won't put Marcus in a position where he has to choose between his job and his family. Adrian's not going to like being pushed into this. Adrian will understand, I hoped. He promised me no more secrets. That has to start somewhere. When Adrian returned from his meeting an hour later, I was waiting in his office, steeling myself for an argument. Your brother visited, he said, without preamble, reading the tension in my posture. Dante filled me in. I lied to him, told him we'd been dating, that the baby was planned, that everything was fine. Good. It wasn't good. The words burst out. It was necessary, but it wasn't good. And it's going to keep being necessary until you make the changes we've been talking about. Adrian's jaw tightened. Ava, I know it's not simple. I know there are complications and risks, and 100 reasons why going legitimate is difficult. But Marcus is a cop, Adrian. A good cop who will eventually find something that makes him look deeper into your business. And when he does, I'll have to choose between my husband and my brother. It won't come to that. You don't know that. I moved closer, taking his hands. But we can prevent it. If we start now, if we actually commit to Lucian's plan, We can build something that doesn't require constant lies and security threats and territory negotiations. You make it sound simple. I know it's not. But it's necessary. For us. For our son. For the life we're trying to build. I placed his hand on my stomach. This baby is going to ask questions someday. About what you do. Why we live the way we do. I need to be able to give him honest answers. Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his hand moving in slow circles on my stomach. You're asking me to dismantle everything my father built, everything I've spent my adult life protecting. I'm asking you to evolve it into something better, something our son can be proud of instead of something he has to hide. I met his eyes. You told Marco you'd sacrifice anything for our safety. I'm asking you to sacrifice the criminal empire for our family's future. And if I can't, if the transition fails, or takes too long, or brings down threats worse than the Rossi family, then we'll face them together, but at least we'll have tried to do the right thing. I stood on my toes to kiss him softly. Please, Adrian, for us. His sigh was heavy with the weight of the decision. I'll talk to Lucian. Get a concrete timeline. Understand what we're really facing. But I'm not making promises I can't keep. That's all I'm asking. He pulled me close, careful of my stomach. You're going to be the death of my reputation as a ruthless crime boss. Good. I prefer you as a ruthless, legitimate businessman. His laugh rumbled through his chest. Come on, you need to eat, rest, and stop trying to reform criminals for at least a few hours. Just this one criminal, the one I'm married to. Lucky bastard, he muttered, but I heard the affection underneath. Dinner that night was a family affair, Dante and Lucian joining us, the conversation flowing easily despite the underlying tension. When Adrian brought up the transition plan, Lucian's expression lit up. You're serious? You actually want to do this? My wife is very persuasive, Adrian said dryly, and she makes valid points about our son's future. It's not just about the baby. Lucian leaned forward, animated in a way I'd never seen. It's about building something sustainable. The import business alone is worth billions if we handle it properly. Add in the shipping contracts, the warehouse operations, the political connections. We could be more powerful, legitimate than we ever were underground. How long? Adrian cut to the chase. Realistically, how long to transition everything? 18 months to 2 years. Faster if we're willing to take losses on certain operations, but I don't recommend it. Better to do this properly, methodically, so no one suspects we're just cleaning dirty money. We'd be vulnerable during the transition. Other families might see it as weakness, try to move on our territory. Which is why we maintain the appearance of business as usual while gradually shifting operations. Lucian pulled out his tablet, diagrams and spreadsheets filling the screen. I've been working on this for months. We start with the most legitimate operations, expand them aggressively. Use the profits to gradually phase out the illegal activities. To the outside world, we're just successful businessmen diversifying our portfolio. And to the families who know what we really do, we make it clear that going legitimate is a choice, not a necessity. That we're still dangerous, still connected, still not to be crossed. We just choose to operate within the law. Lucian's smile was sharp. Most of them will respect that. The ones who don't, we handle the old-fashioned way until the transition is complete. What about the Rossi family? I asked. Marco just agreed to back off, if he thinks Adrian's going soft. Marco's too smart to confuse legitimate business with weakness, Dante interjected. Especially if Adrian maintains the security, the connections, the reputation. You don't stop being dangerous just because you're paying taxes. The conversation continued late into the night, details and contingencies debated with increasing enthusiasm. Watching Adrian slowly commit to the idea, seeing the weight lift from his shoulders as a legitimate future became possible, I felt something shift between us. This wasn't just about safety anymore. It was about choosing to build something together, to actually try for the family and future we'd been pretending to create. "I have a condition," Adrian said as the evening wound down. "We keep this quiet, no announcements, no dramatic changes. The transition happens gradually, carefully, so subtly that by the time anyone realizes what's happened, it's already done." "Agreed," Lucian said immediately. "The less attention we draw, the better. And we maintain full security protocols until it's complete. Maybe even after." Adrian's arm came around my waist. "I'm willing to go legitimate, but I'm not willing to take unnecessary risks with my family. No one's asking you to." I leaned into him. "We're just asking you to try for something better." "Then I'll try." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "For you, for our son, for the life you're making me believe is possible." Later, lying in bed with his hand on my stomach and our son moving between us, Adrian spoke into the darkness. "I met your brother today. Before he came to the lobby, my security alerted me he was asking questions about Blackwood International at the precinct." My heart stopped. "What?" "Nothing serious. Just checking incorporation records, business licenses, standard background research. The kind of thing a protective brother would do." "Adrian, he's good at his job. Thorough. If we're doing this transition, if we're really going legitimate, I need to know he won't be a problem, that he'll accept me eventually. He will. Once everything's legal and I can tell him the truth about how we really met, he'll understand." "Will he?" Adrian's voice was thoughtful. "Understand how I took advantage of an employee? How I've been running a criminal empire while dating his sister? How I essentially kidnapped you to keep you safe? You didn't take advantage. We both made the choice that night. And you didn't kidnap me. You offered protection I needed." I rolled to face him as best I could with my stomach in the way. "Yes, the circumstances are complicated, but the result is us, this baby, a chance at something real. He'll see that eventually. I hope you're right." His hand cupped my face. "Because losing you would destroy me, but having you torn between me and your family would destroy you. And I won't be responsible for that." "You won't be. We're going to do this right. Make everything legitimate. Build a life we don't have to hide. And one day, I'll introduce you to Marcus properly, as my husband and the father of his nephew, and he'll see what I see. A man trying his best to be good for the people he loves. You have remarkable faith in me. You've earned it. Every day, in 100 small ways, you show me the man you are underneath the empire and the reputation. That's the man I married, Adrian. That's the man our son will know." He kissed me then, slow and deep and full of promises neither of us dared speak out loud. And as we fell asleep tangled together, our son quiet between us, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, we could actually make this work. The path to legitimate wouldn't be easy. The lies to Marcus wouldn't stop overnight. The threats wouldn't disappear just because we wanted them to. But we were trying. Together. And right now, that was enough. 3 months passed in a blur of doctor's appointments, nursery preparations, and Lucian's meticulous transition planning. My stomach had grown impossibly large, stretching the limits of even maternity clothes, and our son made his presence known with increasingly aggressive kicks and rolls. "He's going to be a fighter," Adrian observed one evening, watching my stomach move with visible fascination. "Look at him go." "He's going to be a soccer player," I corrected, wincing as tiny feet found my ribs. "Or possibly a martial artist. The violence is impressive." "Takes after his father." Adrian's hand pressed gently where the movement was strongest, and our son immediately kicked toward the warmth. "Hey, little fighter," Give your mother a break. Miraculously, the movement calmed. You have magic hands, I accused. Or he already knows who's in charge. Adrian's smile was smug. Daddy's boy. He hasn't even been born yet. You can't claim him already. Watch me. He leaned down, speaking directly to my stomach. You hear that, son? When you get here, you're going to be so outnumbered by women who want to spoil you. Your mother, your Aunt Margaret, probably your Uncle Lucian, given how soft he gets around babies. But you and me? We're going to stick together. He's going to be born and immediately prove you wrong by being the sweetest, most gentle child ever. Want to bet? No betting on our unborn child's personality. I shifted uncomfortably, trying to find a position that didn't make my back ache. Help me up. I need to walk or I'm going to lose my mind. Adrian immediately moved to assist, supporting my weight with practiced ease. Over the past months, he'd become extraordinarily attuned to my needs, reading my discomfort before I voiced it, anticipating cravings before they hit, adjusting his schedule around my doctor's appointments without complaint. He'd also become increasingly involved in Lucian's transition planning, spending hours reviewing contracts and business proposals, making calls to legitimate investors, gradually shifting Blackwood International's focus from the shadows to the light. How's the Singapore deal going? I asked as we walked slow circles around the penthouse, my hand on my aching back. Lucian closed it yesterday. Completely legal shipping contract with one of the largest electronics manufacturers in Asia. $50 million a year, all above board. Pride colored his voice. That's the third major legitimate contract this quarter. We're actually doing this, Ava. Building something clean. Any pushback from the other families? Some questions. Marco Rossi tried to feel out whether we were vulnerable, but Dante convinced him otherwise. Adrian's jaw tightened. We maintain the reputation while changing the reality. It's working. What about your father's old connections? The ones who aren't interested in going legitimate? Being carefully phased out. Lucian's handling it diplomatically. Generous severance packages, assistants transitioning to other operations, making it clear we're grateful for past loyalty, but moving in a different direction. He guided me toward the windows, the city spread out beneath us. Some of them understand. Others think I've gone soft. Have you? I teased gently. Absolutely. He pulled me back against his chest, hands cradling my stomach. And I don't care. Let them think I'm weak. Let them underestimate me. Because at the end of the day, I'm building an empire my son can inherit with pride. That's worth more than any reputation. The baby kicked in agreement, making us both laugh. He's definitely a Blackwood, opinionated already. Just like his mother. Adrian's lips brushed my temple. Stubborn, beautiful, determined to reform every criminal she meets. Just the one. I'm not running a rehabilitation program. Good. I'm enough work as it is. We stood there in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the city Adrian once controlled through fear and now was learning to influence through legitimate power. It felt like progress, like we were actually building something lasting. My phone buzzed, Marcus calling, his weekly check-in that had become routine over the past months. Hey, I answered, making my voice light. How's the precinct? Busy. We're working a major smuggling case that keeps expanding every time we pull a thread. There was something in his voice, a tension I'd learned to recognize. Ava, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Ice flooded my veins. What is it? Has Adrian mentioned anything about import operations in the Southern District, specifically near the port warehouses? Panic clawed at my throat. Why would he mention that to me? I'm his wife, not his business partner. Because my investigation keeps circling back to Blackwood International. Nothing concrete. Nothing that connects him to anything illegal. But the pattern's there. Marcus's voice softened. I'm not trying to attack your husband, kiddo. I'm trying to understand why a supposedly legitimate businessman has connections to some very questionable people. Maybe because he used to work with them before cleaning up his operations, I said carefully. Adrian's been very focused on legitimate business lately. He even brought on new legal counsel to review all existing contracts. Not a lie, just carefully incomplete truth. When did he start this cleanup? Around the time we got married. He wanted everything above board before the baby came. I pressed my free hand to my stomach, grounding myself. Marcus, please, don't make this into something it's not. My husband is trying to be better, and I don't want him punished for his past while he's building a different future. The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if we'd lost connection. Okay, Marcus finally said. Okay, but Ava, if you ever find out he's still involved in anything illegal, anything that could put you or my nephew at risk, you call me immediately. I don't care about arrests or cases. I care about you. I will. I promise. Another lie. Or maybe a truth I hoped I'd never have to test. After we hung up, I stood frozen, phone still pressed to my ear, terror and guilt warring inside me. How much did he say? Adrian's voice was calm, but I heard the steel underneath. He's investigating import operations. Nothing concrete yet, but he's getting close to connections that might expose you. We expected this might happen. Adrian turned me to face him. It's why we accelerated the transition. By the time Marcus has enough evidence to pursue anything, we'll be completely legitimate. There won't be anything to find. And if he finds something before then, if his investigation moves faster than our cleanup, then we deal with it. His hands framed my face. But I won't let you be torn between us, Ava. If it comes down to choosing, I'll make sure the choice is clear. What does that mean? It means I'll confess. Take responsibility for everything. Make it clear you knew nothing, had no involvement. Your brother gets his collar, you get to keep your relationship with him intact, and our son grows up knowing his father did the right thing in the end. Horror flooded through me. No, absolutely not. You're not sacrificing yourself. To protect you, to protect our son, to make sure he has a mother who isn't tainted by my past. Adrian's voice was absolute. Yes, Ava, I would, in a heartbeat. Adrian, this is what I meant when I said I'd give up anything for you. My freedom, my empire, my future, whatever it takes to keep you safe. His hand moved to my stomach. Both of you. Tears burned my eyes, pregnancy hormones and genuine emotion mixing dangerously. That's not what I want. I want us together, building this life, raising our son. I want the transition to work and Marcus's investigation to find nothing because there's nothing left to find. I want the future we've been planning. Then we make it happen faster. Determination hardened his features. Lucian wanted 2 years. I'm giving him 6 months. We accelerate everything. Take bigger risks if necessary. But we get clean before your brother gets close enough to matter. That's not possible. We make it possible. He was already pulling out his phone, typing rapid-fire messages. Lucian, Dante and I meet tonight. We prioritize what can be legitimized immediately and what needs to be shut down completely. Anything we can't transition gets ended, regardless of profit loss. The other families won't like that. They'll see it as weakness. Try to move on your territory. Let them try. His smile was cold. The crime boss I'd first feared surfacing momentarily. They'll learn that going legitimate doesn't mean going soft. I can protect what's mine through legal channels just as effectively as illegal ones. Better even, because I'll have the law on my side. The certainty in his voice should have reassured me. Instead, it terrified me, because I recognized the tone. The same absolute conviction he'd used when taking me from his office, when negotiating with Marco, when making every choice that prioritized protection over everything else. Adrian Blackwood was going to war with his own empire, and he was doing it on an impossible timeline with risks that could destroy everything we'd built. "Promise me something," I said, catching his hands before he could make more calls. "Anything. Promise me you won't sacrifice yourself, that if it comes down to you or us, you'll choose us together. Because our son needs his father, and I need my husband, and neither of us wants a martyr." His expression softened. "Ava, promise me, Adrian, or I swear I'll do something dramatic and pregnancy hormone-driven that we'll both regret." That earned me a genuine smile. "You're terrifying when you want to be." "I learned from the best. Now promise." "I promise I'll exhaust every other option first, but I can't promise I won't protect you if it becomes necessary." It wasn't the promise I wanted, but it was probably the best I'd get from a man whose entire identity was built on protecting what he loved. "Good enough," I sighed. "Now call your brothers and figure out how to save our future." The meeting that night stretched until dawn, voices carrying from Adrian's study as I tried and failed to sleep. Lucian's measured tones, Dante's sharp observations, Adrian's commands, building a battle plan to dismantle a criminal empire in half the time anyone thought possible. I should have stayed in bed, should have trusted them to handle it. But at 3 a.m, when the baby's movements made sleep impossible anyway, I found myself standing in the doorway of the study, watching 3 brothers remake their world. "Ava." Adrian immediately stood. "You should be resting." I couldn't sleep. Too many gymnastics. I moved into the room, noting the whiteboards covered in diagrams, the laptops open to financial spreadsheets, the organized chaos of rapid planning. "How's it going?" "It's going," Lucian said, looking exhausted but energized. "We've identified everything that can be legitimized within 6 months. It's aggressive, but possible if we're willing to take significant financial hits." "How significant?" 40% of current revenue, maybe more. Dante's expression was grim. "We'd be living on legitimate profits only, which means substantial lifestyle changes until the new operations stabilize." "I don't care about lifestyle changes," Adrian said immediately. "We sell the cars, the properties, whatever it takes. As long as we keep the security infrastructure intact, nothing else matters." "What about your father's legacy?" I asked quietly. "Everything he built?" "My father built an empire to protect his sons. I'm doing the same." Adrian crossed to me, hands gentle on my shoulders. He'd understand. Hell, he'd probably approve. He always said family came first, business second. This is me finally putting that into practice. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. 6 months, Ava. 6 months and we're clean. By the time our son is born, Blackwood International will be completely legitimate. And if something goes wrong? If Marcus's investigation moves faster, or the other families push back too hard, then we adapt. We've survived worse. He guided me to the leather couch, settling beside me with his hand on my stomach. But I'm done living in the shadows. Done building something my son can't be proud of. Your brother's investigation is just the catalyst. The real reason is right here. Our son kicked against his palm, as if acknowledging the statement. "He's going to be so spoiled," I murmured, watching Adrian's expression soften. "Absolutely, obnoxiously spoiled. With the best education, the best opportunities, and a completely legal family business to inherit if he wants it." Adrian looked up at his brothers. "What do you say? Ready to become boring, legitimate businessmen?" "It's about damn time," Lucian said with feeling. "I've been pushing for this since I was old enough to understand what we really did." "I'm just here for the ride," Dante added, "though I reserve the right to punch people who threaten the family, legitimate or not." "That's all I ask." Adrian's smile was genuine. "Now get out, both of you. My pregnant wife needs sleep. and I need to convince her I haven't completely lost my mind. After they left, Adrian carried me back to bed despite my protest that I could walk perfectly fine. "You're not supposed to lift me. The pregnancy books say. The pregnancy books don't account for crime bosses who like carrying their wives." He settled me into bed with careful tenderness. "Besides, you weigh nothing, all baby. I weigh 1,000 pounds. I'm a whale. You're beautiful." He climbed in beside me, pulling me into his arms. "And strong, and brave, and putting up with a ridiculous amount of chaos because I couldn't keep my hands to myself at a company gala. Best bad decision I ever made. Second best?" he corrected. "The best was deciding to keep this baby when you could have walked away. That's when you became the strongest person I know." I turned my head to look at him in the dim light. "Do you really think we can do this? Clean everything up in time?" "I think we don't have a choice. Your brother's too close, our son's too close, and I'm too in love with you to risk losing any of it." The words were matter of fact, said like simple truth rather than declaration. My breath caught. "You love me. Did I forget to mention that?" He sounded genuinely puzzled. "I thought it was obvious. I've been living and breathing you for months, restructuring my entire life around you, planning our future like it's the only thing that matters. Of course I love you. You've never said it before. Then I'm saying it now. I love you, Ava Blackwood. I love you with the kind of consuming intensity that would terrify me if it didn't feel so absolutely right. I love you enough to tear down everything I built, to give you the life you deserve. Is that clear enough?" Tears spilled over despite my attempt to contain them. Damn pregnancy hormones. "Is that a yes? You love me too?" The vulnerability in his voice undid me completely. "Yes, you impossible man. I love you. I've probably loved you since that night at the gala when you made me laugh so hard I snorted champagne. I definitely loved you when you kidnapped me to keep me safe, even though I should have been furious. And I absolutely love you now, watching you try to become someone better for our son." His kiss was thorough, possessive, full of everything we'd both been holding back. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to mine. 6 months, he promised. 6 months and everything changes. We'll tell your brother the truth, show him the legitimate business we've built, introduce him properly to his nephew. Clean slate, honest future. Together, he confirmed. You, me, and the little fighter currently trying to kick his way out early. I laughed through my tears, letting myself believe in the future we were building. It was messy and complicated, and still fraught with danger. But it was ours. And as Adrian's hand moved in soothing circles on my stomach and our son settled into sleep, I let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, love was enough to transform even the darkest legacy into something bright. The acceleration of the transition created chaos. Lucian worked 18-hour days closing deals and negotiating contracts. Dante coordinated security while gradually shifting protection protocols from illegal to legal channels. Adrian became a different kind of ruthless. Not the crime boss who inspired fear, but the businessman who refused to accept failure. I watched from the sidelines as much as my pregnancy allowed, offering input when asked, but mostly trying not to go into early labor from stress. At 8 months pregnant, I was officially uncomfortable all the time, massive in a way that made simple tasks feel impossible, and increasingly anxious about both the baby's arrival and Marcus's investigation. "He's getting close," I told Adrian one evening, showing him my brother's latest text. "He wants to have dinner with both of us next week. Says it's time he got to know my husband properly." Adrian read the message, expression unreadable. "What do you want to do?" "I want to tell him the truth. All of it. Who you were, who you're becoming, why we got married so fast. I took his hand, pressing it to where our son kicked restlessly. I'm tired of lying to him. And if we're as close to legitimate as Lucian says, maybe it's time. Or maybe it's a terrible idea that puts you in the middle of an impossible situation. But Adrian didn't sound entirely convinced. Though I admit, the thought of not having to hide from your brother is appealing. So we do it. We invite him here, show him the nursery, let him see that we're actually building something real. Then we tell him everything, the past, the transition, the timeline. We ask for 6 more months before he pursues whatever his investigation has found. And we trust that he loves me enough to give us that time. That's a lot of trust to place in a cop. He's not just a cop. He's my brother. I met Adrian's eyes steadily. And I need this, Adrian. I need to stop lying to the one family member I had before you. Please. He studied me for a long moment, then sighed. Okay. But we do it my way. Security present, exit strategies planned, and the moment it goes south, you're out of there. It's not going to go south. Marcus is reasonable. Marcus is a detective investigating organized crime who just discovered his sister married into the organization he's targeting. Adrian's voice was dry, but sure, I'm certain it'll be a pleasant dinner conversation. Despite his sarcasm, he helped me arrange the dinner, even letting me choose the menu. Comfort food that reminded me of the dinners Marcus and I used to share before my life became this complicated. The night Marcus arrived, the penthouse felt different. Not like a fortress, but like a home. The nursery was nearly complete. All soft grays and navy accents with a crib that probably cost more than my first car. Our bedroom held evidence of our merged lives. My books mixing with his expensive art. My comfortable clothes draped over his designer furniture. It looked like what it was. 2 people building a life together. Ava. Marcus hugged me carefully, mindful of my stomach. You look ready to pop. 3 weeks left, supposedly, though this kid has different ideas. I gestured to where the baby pressed visibly against my stomach. Come meet your nephew. He's very active. Marcus's hand on my stomach was gentle, his expression transforming when the baby kicked strongly against his palm. He's really in there. Very much so, and getting bigger by the day. I linked my arm through his. Come on. Adrian's in the living room pretending he's not nervous about this dinner. Is he? Nervous? Marcus's cop face was firmly in place as we entered the living room. Adrian stood when we entered, extending his hand with the same confidence he brought to every business negotiation. Detective Chen, thank you for coming. Marcus, please. My brother shook his hand, studying Adrian with the intensity I knew too well. Since we're family now. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. I shot both of them warning looks before heading to the kitchen. I'm getting appetizers. You two try to be civilized. When I returned 5 minutes later, they were sitting in awkward silence, neither quite sure how to begin. Okay, this is ridiculous. I set down the cheese plate with more force than necessary. Marcus, you have questions. Adrian, you have answers. Someone start talking before I go into stress-induced labor. Your wife is very direct, Marcus observed. It's one of her best qualities. Adrian's hand found mine, along with her complete inability to let me get away with anything. Good. She always was stubborn. Marcus leaned forward. So here's what I know. Blackwood International has connections to several criminal organizations, import routes that don't quite add up, financial patterns that suggest money laundering, political connections that go deeper than legitimate business would require. But here's what I can't figure out. In the past 6 months, everything's been changing. Contracts terminated, partnerships dissolved, operations restructured. It looks like someone's cleaning house. Someone is, Adrian said calmly. Me. The admission hung in the air. You're admitting to criminal activity? Marcus's voice was carefully neutral, I'm admitting that my father built an empire that operated in gray areas, that I inherited that empire and maintained it because it was all I knew, and that 6 months ago, I met someone who made me want to build something better. Adrian's hand tightened on mine. Your sister didn't know about any of it when we started seeing each other. She found out later, and by then, she was already pregnant. I gave her a choice: walk away or stay and help me become someone worthy of being our son's father. She chose to stay. That's not exactly how it happened, I interjected. You sort of kidnapped me initially. Protected, Adrian corrected. I protected you from a very real threat. By taking me to your fortress and refusing to let me leave. I turned to Marcus. Though, to be fair, I could have fought harder to go. But he was right about the danger, and I was tired of hiding, and I wanted our baby to have a father. So yes, I chose to stay, and to help him transition everything to legitimate operations. Marcus looked between us, expression unreadable. This is insane. Completely, I agreed, but it's also true. And we're asking you for 6 months. 6 months to finish the transition before you pursue whatever your investigation has found. By then, there won't be anything illegal left to prosecute. You're asking me to obstruct justice, to ignore criminal activity. I'm asking you to give your brother-in-law time to make things right, to let your nephew be born into a legitimate family. I moved to sit beside Marcus. I know what I'm asking. I know it goes against everything you believe in, but I'm asking anyway, because I love you both, and I need you both in my life. The silence that followed felt endless. Show me, Marcus finally said. Show me the transition. The timeline, the contracts, everything. Let me see that you're actually doing what you claim. Marcus. No, Ava. If you want me to wait, I need proof. Documentation that you're really going legitimate, not just moving operations around to look cleaner. His jaw set stubbornly. That's the deal. Full transparency. Or I pursue what I have now. Adrian and I exchanged glances. Okay, Adrian said. But not tonight. Tonight is about family, not business. Tomorrow, you come to my office, and Lucian walks you through everything. Every contract, every terminated partnership, every dollar we've lost making this transition. You get complete access. And in exchange? In exchange, you give us the 6 months. You keep investigating, you keep watching, but you don't move on what you have until we've completed the transition. Then, if you find anything still illegal, you do your job. Adrian's voice was steady. I'm not asking you to ignore crimes. I'm asking you to let me finish correcting them before you pursue charges for things I'm actively changing. Marcus considered for a long moment. Fine. But if I find out you're lying, if this is some elaborate scheme to buy time for something else, I will take you down, family or not. I'd expect nothing less, Adrian said with something that might have been respect. The tension finally broke, and we moved to dinner. The conversation stayed carefully neutral, Marcus telling stories about our childhood, Adrian sharing carefully edited tales of building Blackwood International, me providing pregnancy updates and speculation about the baby's personality. He's going to be trouble, Marcus predicted. With your stubbornness and Adrian's intensity, that kid doesn't stand a chance. He's going to be perfect, I corrected. Stubborn and intense and absolutely perfect. As the evening wound down and Marcus prepared to leave, he pulled me aside. You're sure about this? About him? I've never been more sure of anything. I pressed his hand to my stomach for a final kick. He's a good man trying to be better, Marcus. That's all any of us can do. You really love him? Not a question. So much it terrifies me sometimes. Marcus hugged me carefully. Then I'll give you your 6 months. But Ava? If anything goes wrong, If you need me for any reason, you call. Day or night, case or no case. I'm your brother first." "I know. Thank you." After he left, I found Adrian on the balcony, overlooking the city he'd once controlled and was now learning to navigate legitimately. "That went better than expected," I said, wrapping my arms around him from behind, or trying to, given my stomach got in the way. "Your brother is terrifying, in a good way, but still terrifying." He turned, pulling me close. 6 months. That's all we have to make this work. Then we'll make it work." I pressed up on my toes to kiss him. "We've survived everything else. We can survive this. Together? Always together." The baby kicked agreement between us, and Adrian's laugh rumbled through his chest. "He's definitely got opinions. Takes after his father. Opinionated, stubborn, determined to remake the world on his own terms. And his mother. Brave, fierce, unwilling to accept anything less than the future she wants." Adrian's hands cradled my stomach. "He's going to be incredible." 3 weeks later, at 2 a.m, my water broke. The chaos that followed would have been funny if I hadn't been in labor, Adrian going from calm and controlled to barely coherent, Dante arriving with a security team suitable for transporting heads of state, Lucian calling ahead to the hospital to ensure the entire floor was secured and private. "This is excessive," I panted through a contraction. "This is necessary," Adrian insisted, holding my hand like a lifeline. "Our son needs to be born safely." "He's going to be born in a hospital, not a war zone." "Same thing in my world." The labor lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of Adrian never leaving my side, talking me through contractions, letting me squeeze his hand until I probably broke bones, telling me I was strong and fierce and doing amazing even when I was cursing his name. And then finally, our son arrived. 7 pounds, 8 ounces of pure perfection, with my dark hair and Adrian's gray eyes, and a cry that announced his displeasure at being evicted from his comfortable home. "He's perfect," Adrian breathed, cradling our son with unexpected confidence. "Absolutely perfect." "What's his name?" the nurse asked. We'd debated names for months, never quite settling on one. But looking at our son, the answer suddenly seemed obvious. "Marcus," I said softly, meeting Adrian's eyes. "Marcus Andrew Blackwood." Adrian's throat worked. "After your brother. After the man who gave us the time we needed, who chose family over duty, who trusted us when he had every reason not to." I traced our son's tiny hand. "I want our baby to know that kind of courage, that kind of loyalty." "Marcus Andrew Blackwood," Adrian repeated, testing the name. "I like it. It's strong, honorable." He looked up at me, like his mother. The nurse took the baby for measurements, and Adrian pulled me close, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Thank you. For him, for this, for believing I could be someone worthy of you both. You already were worthy. You just needed to see it yourself." Marcus chose that moment to arrive, having broken several traffic laws to get there after Adrian's frantic call. "Is Ava okay? The baby?" He burst into the room, then froze at the sight of the tiny bundle now being returned to my arms. "Meet your nephew," I said softly. "Marcus Andrew Blackwood." My brother's eyes went suspiciously bright. "You named him after me?" "Seemed appropriate, since you're the reason we had time to build the family we wanted." I gestured him closer. "Want to hold him?" Watching my brother cradle my son, with Adrian's arm around my shoulders, and our new family complete, I felt something settle in my chest. This was right. All of it. The chaos, the complications, the impossible journey from that first night at the gala to this moment. "He's perfect," Marcus murmured. "Absolutely perfect." "He is," Adrian agreed. And he's going to grow up knowing his uncle is the reason his parents had time to build something real, something lasting. "No pressure, kid," Marcus told the baby. "Just be yourself. That's more than enough." 5 months later, Lucian's transition plan completed ahead of schedule. Blackwood International was completely legitimate. Every contract reviewed, every operation legal, every dollar accounted for and taxed appropriately. Marcus's investigation found exactly nothing prosecutable, and he closed the case with something that might have been relief. "You actually did it," he said at young Marcus's christening, watching Adrian navigate the crowd of legitimate business contacts and political allies with practiced ease. "Built something clean from something dirty." "We did it," I corrected, shifting our son to my other arm. "All of us, together." "He's different now, your husband. Lighter somehow. Like he's not carrying the weight of the world anymore. He's carrying something better. A family. A future. A life he chose instead of inherited." I watched Adrian laugh at something Dante said, genuine joy on his face. "That's worth more than any empire." "And you? Happy?" Deliriously. I pressed a kiss to my son's head. "It's messy and complicated and nothing like I imagined, but it's perfect. We're perfect." Marcus studied me for a moment, then nodded. "You are. All of you." That night, after the christening guests had left, and baby Marcus was finally, blessedly asleep, Adrian pulled me onto the balcony where this journey had somehow ended. 1 year, he marveled. 1 year ago, you were hiding your pregnancy and I was running an empire I hated. Now look at us. Now we're legitimate business owners with a cranky baby who refuses to sleep more than 2 hours at a time. Best upgrade ever. He pulled me close, careful not to wake the baby monitor clipped to my dress. "Thank you, Ava, for everything, for believing I could change, for giving me a family, for loving me even when I was still figuring out how to be the man you deserved. You were always that man. You just needed permission to show it." I leaned into him. "Besides, you've given me just as much. A home, a family, a love I didn't know was possible. We saved each other, Adrian. That's what we do. Forever, forever, I promised. You, me, and our cranky baby. Building something beautiful from the chaos." He kissed me then, slow and deep and full of all the love we'd found in the most unlikely circumstances. And as the city lights sparkled below, and our son slept peacefully inside, I knew we'd made it. The CEO's hidden heir was hidden no more. The crime boss had become a legitimate businessman. The lies had transformed into truth, and the one-night stand had somehow, impossibly, become the love story of a lifetime. Together, we'd built something that would last. A legacy of love instead of fear, a future bright instead of shadowed. A family bound not by blood and violence, but by choice and devotion. And that, I thought, as Adrian held me close with our son sleeping just inside, was worth every moment of chaos it took to get here.